let's bring on our first-timer, a first-time guest, the Public Affairs Director for the Phils, Scott Palmer. Scott, welcome to Philly Pressbox Radio.
Bill, Chet, it's a pleasure to be with you guys. And Chet, we talked in spring training, and at that time, I happily agreed to come on the show. No idea I'll be doing it with 7.5 back, and timing is everything, I guess, in every business and in every sportscast and in every appearance. So, it is what it is right now. We got to find a way to turn this around, and I think it's only a matter of time. This team is too good. We said that we probably wouldn't have any long losing streaks when the season started because of the quality starting pitching. Even that seems to have hit the bricks here for a little bit. So, yeah, we definitely need to turn this around, and this club's too good to keep playing like this.
It's funny you mentioned the timing of things. I have to put this out there right now. We firmed up this plan last Tuesday for you to make your inaugural visit to Philly Pressbox Radio tonight. And since then, the Phillies have lost 7 straight games. So just blame me.
Thanks, guys. I got to be going.
It's all on me. But yeah, they're going to turn it around. We know that, Scott. Hey, before we talk about the Phillies, though, let's talk about you for just a little bit. Because like most of us of a certain age who grew up in the Philly, South Jersey area, we remember you from your time as a sports anchor and reporter at Phillies 6 ABC. You were there, 25 years, I believe?
Almost 25 years, and I am as excited as everybody else in this town about the Flyers and the Sixers. I got here in time for...
Look at that guy.
Gosh, who is that person? I think that person in the window is Tug McGraw, who was waiting to come on. It was so much fun to work with Tug during those days. Rest in peace. But yes, got a chance to make those 2 Flyers runs. Rick Tocchet was one of the spark plugs of that team, and now he's calling the shots. Everything is coming full circle, and the Sixers are doing so well. And I got to cover Julius Erving and the '83 championship team. We owe you none. Remember that T-shirt? Yes. And those were really fun times, and with a little bit of a dry spell, but and I mean I'm old enough now that I can savor those past victories and really look forward to those days returning to South Philadelphia.
Scott, obviously you cover in Philly sports for a long time. Are you as big a sports fan of all the sports as we are, or do the Phillies kind of have you wrapped up a bit?
I am. I'm on the Phillies payroll, so obviously
Yes.
I've always been a big baseball fan. When I was growing up, guys, I was asked by my girlfriend at that time in high school, what are you going to do with your life, because you're not a great student. And 56 years later, we are still together. She took a flyer on me, and I said I only have 2 real passions in life: television and baseball. And my gosh, have I been the luckiest guy in the world to be able to make a living in both, and with 2 great organizations, 6 ABC, that put our 2 kids through college, and now the Phillies, which has been an unbelievable retirement job, if you could call it that.
Hey, Scott, back in the early 1980s, pretty much everybody in the Philly area watched Channel 6 News. I'm going to put up a picture here from some of the key guys from that era. Look at that. Jim Gardner, Tolley, and the late, great Jim O'Brien, man. He was so popular. I bet you have fond memories of your early years at Channel 6.
I do of all 3 of those gentlemen. Let me say a couple of words about Jim O'Brien, because I was very fortunate, guys, to work for 18 months alongside Jim before his very untimely death in the parachuting accident. And fellas, that guy, he wasn't just an institution in Philadelphia. He really changed my broadcasting career. I remember I thought I was doing pretty good after the first 6 months or so, and he pulled me aside into a small editing room, and he said, "Scott, do you really want to stay here?" And I said, "I really do. I thought I was doing good, Jim." And he said, "Well, you're more concerned about how you say things instead of just talking to the folks. And if that doesn't change, you won't be talking to these folks for much longer." Jim had this great ability. And imagine a person from Texas coming into Philadelphia. And we don't accept strangers too well. Texas might be one of the least places that we would expect somebody to come and grab our hearts. But Jim was totally Jim. You may not know it. He was a walk-on at Baylor. So he had that same intensity on television that he had in football and in life. And so most people thought, well, he must be really easygoing. He was, He had a great ability in front of the camera. He was an unbelievable broadcaster. But I pity the elderly lady in the diner as we came to lunch, getting mad at him because it rained. He would unload very quickly on that poor soul, and it's my fault. And he would go into that real competitive Jim O'Brien. But boy, what a blessing it was for me to work with him as long as I had the opportunity to do it. And Jim Gardner is just the best local broadcaster, I think, in America. Before we ever could get a story past Jim, because he was also the managing editor as well as being, maybe without that title, but as well as being the main anchor, you had to have your story set in stone and have your sources and be able to sell it to Jim before he would ever allow it on the air. And Don was, a wonderful person with us back then. He was very charitable minded, as he has been his whole career. He ran into a real rough spot because of an addiction after he had banged up his car. Doing well now. He's been sober for many, many years. I'm really fortunate to have worked with the team that I did, much less Mark Howard and Lisa Thomas Laurie and Dave Roberts. God bless all those people. They really were influential in my career. They took the little guy aside and told him that he was a member of the team. And, I'm forever grateful to the people I worked with.
Hey, Scott, check out this picture that I found. We touch all bases. Look at those four guys.
Wow, that is incredible, isn't it? Yeah, and the guy at second base, Tug McGraw. I mean, I remember, if I can tell you a quick story about
please.
The first time I met Tug. I came from Birmingham, Alabama. I had made several stops in other smaller markets, as you might, as a baseball player in the minor leagues before I got called up to Philly. And so my first Major League Baseball game was the Phillies opener. The Phillies are coming off the World Series in '80. And my gosh, Tug gets on in the ninth inning in Cincinnati and walks in the winning run. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I got to go see Tug McGraw, World Series hero, after he just blew the game. So I walked up to him and he said, I introduced myself right away. And he said, well, Scott, did your dog just die? Because you're taking this a lot harder than I am. And I said, Tim, excuse me, I said, Tug, it didn't go well out there and you're a World Series hero. He said, there's probably about 3 billion people in China that aren't going to find out about this at all. It'll be fine. We got a lot more to play. So please understand that we'll do our best every day, but you got to understand there'll be a lot of losses along the way. And we became friends, and then we became teammates when he came to Channel 6. And Tug was just remarkable. He had that, you got to believe, feeling at all times. And he would always finish his report by game time 7:05. That's because he could never think of how to sign off. He would just say game time 7:05. And one time he had forgotten to spit out the chaw that he had before he started his report. So here's this poor guy, trying to sound okay. And I think he actually thought about swallowing it for a minute. He didn't, and I was able to take it back, and we went to something very quickly so he could spit it out. But he was just the heart and soul of Philadelphia, and boy, we miss him. I still think that our friend Tugger is a ghost at the ballpark. I wish he'd take care of this losing streak, by the way.
Yes.
But you'd find him doing things at the least or the most opportune time, and you'd say, well, the leprechaun is back again. I mean, who else would come on the field for the first time in spring training on St. Patrick's Day and start the whole trend of wearing green jerseys? And he was the only one, of course. He came out in relief, and the umpire said, McGraw, you got to go back in the clubhouse because you're out of uniform. Tug very calmly said, it is St. Patrick's Day. Everybody else here is out of uniform. I don't know what you're talking about with me.
Right.
But I mean, he set that, and he'll never be forgotten for all the things he did, much less throwing that last strike to Willie Wilson to give them the Phillies their first World Series championship.
Hey, Scott, after all those years at 6ABC, how did you end up with the Phillies gig?
Oh my gosh. I think blind luck, great timing again. I had been in broadcasting for 35 years. As I said, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be on TV. But after 35 years and 25 years at a great station like 6ABC Action News, I wanted another challenge, and I also wanted a little bit of rest. So I decided to retire. And the second time, I've told the story before, but the second time I power washed my deck in the first month that I retired. I said, you know what, we better look at this again because I need to find something to keep myself occupied. And fortunately, I had a great relationship with David Montgomery, our friend in heaven. And he said, well, if you want to come, you can come on as a consultant. And if you don't suck real bad, maybe you can stay around for a while. And it has been 21 years now. And they always found a place for me. And for crying out loud, I used to work with the players full time in the clubhouse. And now I work with the fans, taking vacations and going on cruises. And this year going to San Diego and Los Angeles on road trips. I can tell you guys without a doubt, fans are a lot more fun to travel with than players are. I mean, the players, we understand it's a business trip. It's their job. Fans are out for a good time and they're ready for a nice vacation. And I've been able to do this now since 2009 with my good friend, Greg Luzinski. Believe it or not, you guys, we grew up only 8 miles apart in suburban Chicago. I only knew about him back then by the accolades he had as a high school athlete. I read about him all the time. He had, at that time you could do this, a scholarship offer from one school in every conference. Could have played football. In high school, he was never in his entire high school career caught from behind. And if anybody ever did get hands on him from behind, he'd just shake them off. That was it. So he decided on baseball after he went to Notre Dame and he met a few guys that were about twice as large as him. And he said, I think my career is probably in baseball. And the Phillies and all of us are happy that he found the game that he had such great success in. And so Greg and I have become really good friends, and Bull and I love our travels together with our fans. We've gotten a good group. We'll have anywhere between 50 and 150 people travel with us. And we have a core of like 35 or 40 people that have become our Phillies traveling family. They meet with each other in the off season. They watch games together. That maybe is one of the things I'm most proud of, is having a small role in bringing that group together, because they look after each other. They go to each other's, well, this is hard to say, but we've had a couple of people pass along the way, but they show up at the funeral. It's just incredible to have that kind of a loyal fan base and that kind of a family that we've been able to build.
Well, you mentioned Bull. Let me ask you about one of his teammates, a guy named Mike Schmidt. And before we do that, I'm going to take you back in time 39 years to this past weekend, 39 years from this past weekend. You were actually in Pittsburgh for the weekend, April of 1987, and you did a short interview with that Phillies third baseman after a memorable home run.
With him in Pittsburgh today, our own Scott Palmer, as he talked to Mike about the home run.
Jerry, we're here with the man of the hour. Mike, you did it today. And it not only was career home run number 500, but it won a ball game, and I know that means a whole heck of a lot to you.
Oh, you got that right. This time of year, the way we've been playing, and we had one last night. Now to have won 2 in a row, it gives us a chance to get on a little bit of a string and come out and play them hard tomorrow. And Scotty, I can't think of a better ending to a story than what I experienced out here today. The only maybe better ending would have been had it happened at Veterans Stadium.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you know, guys, a little background on that. We all loved and still love another of our friends in heaven, Harry Callis, and his call on the 500th home run is memorable. There was nobody better than Harry. But at that time of his career, that time during Phillies broadcasts, there were a couple of innings that Harry did not work. And so I don't know if you remember that or not, but I'm thinking ahead of time. And here I am with an Action News camera, a great photographer, and myself. And every time he comes up to bat, Mike comes up to bat, I'm doing a play-by-play thinking I'm going to have a piece in immortality, because I've got this feeling like I sure would like a role in this. And then we saw Harry walking behind us in the press box. And we knew Schmidt was coming up the next inning. And I said, Harry, can you come here for a second? He said, what? Why? And I said, would you please take this microphone and do a play-by-play of Mike's at bat in this inning? Because if he hits a home run at number 500, your call has to be on it. And as it turned out, he got the home run the next time at bat. But I was thinking, we're going to have this, if this happens, and I won't give it to anybody for a day. I'll let everybody have it the next day. But we're going to keep it at Channel 6 as the scoop of the baseball year. And it was so nice of Mike to be able to stick around on the field and do that interview. We were just right place, right time again, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Scott, with all the different things that you covered in all your years prior to coming to the Phillies and with the Phillies, what are the most memorable ones? I mean, obviously there's championships, there's all-star games, there's no hitters, there's been perfect games, all kinds of stuff.
If you guys
Super
will allow
Bowls.
me to, if you guys will allow me to go back in time a little bit more, I mentioned that, TV people, before they get to a major market, if they're fortunate enough to get that far, they work in a lot of small backwater cities. I worked in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where at that time it was in fashion for sportscasters to try different things. Well, I got talked into riding a bull at a rodeo. Now, if you want to talk about the most memorable thing I ever did, and also the most painful, it was getting on the back of a bull. I was much too young and much too stupid to say no, but I stayed on it for about 2 seconds. I did, when it went like this twice, I was on it, and then it did this thing where it went this way and then that way, and he threw me off in a hurry. So maybe that I quarterbacked the Wofford football team for one series of downs, and the head coach thought he'd get back at me by telling his offensive line to execute the lookout block, which was when the ball is snapped, turn around at the quarterback, go, look out! And, everybody wants to get with the camera. And it was a rainy evening. They actually buried me in the mud. There's a picture of me, some guy with this hand on my helmet, bringing me out of the mud. I'm sure I had a concussion. That I drove stock car races. I drove in 2 stock car races, both on dirt tracks. I didn't know, a dirt track. I didn't know how you're supposed to power and slide into turns. And fortunately, the promoter, who wanted to make his track look good, gave me a car that was superior to every other car in the field. But yet, until I learned that I could slide and know how to drive, and I'm really competitive, so I finished third, which I thought was an incredible feat, even though I had the best car. And the promoter gave me a trophy that stood about 3 feet tall, and I thought, man, the fix is in. But I appreciate his generosity. Oh gosh, guys, I did so many things back then before I ever had a chance to be in the major leagues. But those are some of the most memorable, I guess. But being on those playoff runs with the Flyers, with Clarkie, and going all the way to Edmonton, the Sixers playoff run. Oh, I should have mentioned that when I was in Birmingham, not only did I work with Bear Bryant for 2 years, which was incredible, a real legend in football, but they asked me to interview a sophomore in basketball, sophomore in high school, who they said was built like the Pillsbury Doughboy, and he could jump out of the building. You can probably figure it was Charles Barkley at Leeds High School.
Wow.
So actually, you can blame me. I was the first person ever to give Charles Barkley a television interview, and he was very polite, and we really enjoyed our time, a short time together during that interview. But when he came to Philly, I was sitting in where the press were for his first introductory news conference, and he looked at his grandmom and he said, "Hey, Scott's here. We're going to be okay, Grandma. We're going to be okay." And so since that time, I feel very privileged to be one of Charles' friends. We're not especially tight, but we have dinner once in a while. And as Charles always tells me, nobody says I'm wrong, Scott. They just say you shouldn't say that. And I think he's right. Honestly, I think he's right most times. So yeah, I really did enjoy my time, in the backwaters of TV. But I'll never forget, and I'm so thankful to have had these many years here in Philadelphia with the best sports fans in the country.
Scott, we got to stick in 2 minutes on the current Phillies. My goodness. Now, I'm going to fess up. On our season preview show last month, I predicted big seasons for both Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm. Now, Stott's picked it up a little bit, but Boehm is hitting 128 with an OPS of just 384. I know he's not a superstar, but he's a better player than that, isn't he? Is he just pressing this year in a contract year or what?
Absolutely. Baseball players are human beings. And, a few of our players do have some personal things going on in their life. And I'm not going to get into those, but sports fans know them. It's not easy sometimes. As I've been with in the last couple of nights, talk about bad timing. In a Q&A with John Middleton and then a Q&A with Rob Thompson, all 3 of the last 4 days. So talk about bad timing. My goodness. But both of them, and then Mike Schmidt the other night I was with at the Union League along with Larry Boa and Jimmy Rollins, and they all agreed they would rather go through this early than go through it in the end of the season. We've done really well regular season, and when people say you didn't make enough moves, I always go back to there is a trade deadline, you know. So when we get there, if we're still in it, then we'll try to find that big bopper right-handed bat that can get us over the hump from the regular season to the playoffs. It's just a matter of time. As I said before, this team is just too good to be playing like this. We have to turn it around. The pitching has to come back. We'll get a big lift, I think, when Zach Wheeler comes back, not just on the mound, but an emotional lift from the guys in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I always say, Scott, this time of the year, like Charlie used to say, when is hitting season?
Yeah, and it's
because we got
one day and it's hockey season the next.
Right. We have too many guys, we'll just call it slumping together here early in the season.
Yeah, Jim Fregosi used to call them mix-ups. He would never use the word slump. A slump is a slump, and we got guys who are slumping. We got guys who are they were in spring training pretty disciplined with their approach. They have to be disciplined now. We got too many guys who are swinging at balls out of the strike zone. We got to get, you know, some more guys who understand that that's an out when we go out there. And we got to keep the line moving. You can't hit a 5-run home run all the time, but everybody's trying to do it all by themselves, and that does happen. I think, you know, to put the blame on the manager or the coaching staff right now is a little premature, maybe a lot premature. You know, you got to look at their records. You got to look at how they've managed since they've been here, and I'll stay behind Topper, and I think that it'll be sooner rather than later, but I'm going to use another word. Gully G, guys. I sure hope we win tonight.
All right. Hey, Scott, let's finish on a lighter note.
Sure.
Next year is going to be the 40th anniversary of Mike Schmidt's 500th home run, which we talked about earlier. But 2027 will also be the 50th anniversary of your entire minor league baseball career.
Oh, God, we got to go there.
Yes, we got to. Scott Palmer, folks, is something of a minor league legend down in Asheville, North Carolina. Tell us the story. And here's your picture, by the way.
I think I would call myself a minor league fraud. Yes, I was working in Asheville, and this was another one of those where we got Scott to try something. So the Asheville Tourists were a Texas Rangers team, and they said, Scott, would you spend 2 weeks going to practices 3 times a week, do stories about minor league baseball teams and players, of course, and at the end, play in 1 game. And being a huge baseball fan, I couldn't say no. But my career was over in sophomore year in high school when I couldn't hit a breaking ball. So I knew this was going to be an experiment. Wayne Terwilliger, I don't know if you remember his name. That's way back, but he was the manager. So at the end of every practice, he would throw me batting practice, and all it was little lollipops, straight lollipops, and I was spraying it because I have good hand-eye coordination. At least I had that. So here comes the game. We're playing the Spartanburg Phillies. And Wayne says, you're going to see a prospect. Look at this poor soul. It didn't know what was in store for him. I faced Marty Bystrom, guys. Yeah. Marty Bystrom. He was about 6'4", 6'5" then, and he threw mid-90s. So I got up there, and believe me, I've never seen that. The first pitch, I didn't see much either. It sounded a little low. And it made it sound like this, like that. It's made that sound, and I was smart, strike one, and I made 1 foot out of the box. I certainly didn't turn around to the umpire, but I said, "Didn't that sound a little low to you?" Because it sounded low to me. Get in, rookie. Second pitch comes. It has a little bit more on it, but I'm starting really early this time, guys, and I almost killed 3 people in the first base dugout. I was so late on that pitch that it went angular into the first base dugout. Strike 2, 0-2. I'm thinking he's not going to waste time. Here comes another one right down the middle of the plate with some heat on it. No, he's got to embarrass me besides, which I still talk about sometimes with him. I'm not happy. He threw a curveball on 0-2. And on days like, today when it's rainy, I still have a crick in my back because I think I swung. I think I swung 3 times, guys. I was like this guy going around in circles. So that was it. And there was only one ball in the field. I played right field. And it was a very sinking, soft liner to right. And I was always a decent, I could play the field. So I said, one chance, what am I going to do? So I ran as hard as I could. I dived, and the ball came off the top of my glove. Got by me, and I ran as fast as I could to hold him to a triple. but if you look in the guide that year, in the baseball guide, in the Western Carolinas League, there's a guy who played for the Charleston Pirates whose name started with a P, who, because of alphabetical order, is right behind me. His name is Tony Pena. So I mean, there were a few guys. That was my brush with fame. But I'll never forget that time, and I'll never forgive Marty for throwing me, into a curveball.
And you are in the baseballreference.com database. There it is, 0 for 2.
Yeah, I should tell you, the second time they got a guy on first, and I was asked to bunt, and of course I could put a bat on the ball, but the first pitch came up and in, and I offered at it and popped it up to the catcher. It was very sad. I should have at least got the bunt down.
Yeah, hey, Scott, did you notice? Chet, put that up again right quick.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
He bats unknown and he throws unknown.
That's funny.
That would have been the easiest way to do it.
Oh, this was great, Scott.
Well, Scott, hey, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. We could do this all night. Let's do it again.
Bill, I hope so. It's been a pleasure meeting with you. And Chad, I'm so glad we met up in spring training and you guys could make this happen. It's been a pleasure being with both of you.
Absolutely.